After much fanfare, Shadow of the Erdtree is finally here, depending on your time zone. I've put together a list of the release times in different time zones for your and my convenience. I just don't enjoy looking at a map to figure out what each time zone's release time is. These are the release times for consoles. Do note that the PlayStation allows you to preload the DLC 48 hours early, while Xbox and PC do not have that option. So how do you gain access to the Shadow of the Erdtree? Ultimately, you need to kill 3 bosses total to access the DLC the fastest. Any Remembrance boss, so either Godric in Limgrave or Rennala in Liurnia, Radahn, and Mohg. After defeating any Remembrance boss, head over to the First Steps Grace and begin Varus' questline. For a starting character, this is by far the fastest way to gain access to Mohg, and the best rune farming location in the base game. After that, head out to the Round Table Hold and talk to Enya, the old woman next to the 2 fingers. When you return to the First Steps Grace, you will find Barry missing, replaced with a message he leaves you, denoting his next location, at the Rose Church, in Liurnia. Head on over to his new location and talk to him. Make sure to mention how you don't think the 2 fingers seem right, when given the option. Vare will give you 3 festering bloody fingers. Using these items and initiating a PvP invasion 3 times allows you to move on to the next step of the quest. You do not need to defeat the person you're invading, and you can even invade and immediately use the finger severer to leave, without engaging in any actual combat. Alternatively, if you're playing offline, you can head out to the Wraithblood Ruins and invade and fight Magnus the Beastflaw. This is an NPC fight, and you need to win in order to progress the quest offline. Finding Magnus involves some extra steps, but if you're following this guide, you'll be able to significantly streamline knocking out the requirements to access the DLC, and progressing through the base game as well. Magnus is located in the Wraithblood Ruins in the Altus Plateau. To gain access to the Altus Plateau, we will need to gain access to the Dectus Lift, which will in turn require both halves of the Dectus Medallion. The Third Church of Marika Grace is a great place to start the search for both halves of the medallion. Behind the church, somewhat hidden in the bushes, is a teleporter. Go ahead and activate it. This will bring you to Grail's Dragon Barrow in Caelid. Activate the Grace nearby, especially if you're early in the game, and then descend down the stairs and follow the path. Feel free to grab any goodies you see along the way, and be careful. Along the way, you may or may not stumble into a couple of field bosses. Feel free to defeat them at your leisure. Our goal is Fort Ferrith. Once you reach it, don't forget to activate the Grace, and then follow my pathing. At the top of the ladder, in a chest, you will find your first half of the Dectus Medallion. The second half of the medallion is in another fort. Head south of the third church. A great way of expediting the process of finding Magnus is using this teleporter. This teleports you quite close to the Wraithblood ruins. If you're playing online, watch out for other players' bloodstains on the ground, as they can somewhat mask the invasion sign on the ground. After killing Magnus, or participating in 3 Festering Finger invasions, Vare will propose you join his order. Despite this sounding sketchy as all hell, do so. He will give you the Lord of Blood's favor item, which needs to be soaked in a Finger Maiden's blood. As Vare mentions earlier, you are in fact maidenless, so you have 4 options, which I'm narrowing down to 1, as it is the simplest and does not lock you out of any other content or questlines. Head out to the Dectus Lift Grace and then travel northeast. A glowing eyeball will start inflicting the Madness status effect on you. It comes in and out of existence, so when it is glowing, take cover. In order to disable this effect in this area permanently, climb the tower the eyeball rests atop of and kill the enemies on its summit. They will not trouble you again. Make your way through the Frenzied Flame Village to the Church of Inhibition. On the way, you will be invaded by Vike. Either defeat him or ignore him, as right next to the Grace is the body of Vike's Finger Maiden, and you can interact with it to soak your Lord of Blood's favor item in her blood. Return to Vara and get your finger ripped off. This does not change your character model. This nets you a reusable bloody finger that can be used to initiate invasions, and your prize, the Pureblood Knight's Medal. Ignore Vara's instructions and use the medal. This will transport you to Mohg's domain. This is by far the fastest way to get access to this boss fight from the start of the game, and is also home to some of the easiest and lucrative rune farming locations. As long as you're careful and keep moving, you don't need to fight a single enemy on your way to the boss fight. Entering the room ahead triggers the boss fight. Mohg resists fire damage, but is weak to bleeding. Radahn is located in Redmane Castle in Caelid. If you follow this guide, you have already accessed Altus Plateau, and this is one of the possible criteria for activating Redmane Castle's Festival State. This state allows access to the Radahn boss fight. If you choose to invade 3 times instead, and ignored Magnus, I would still recommend getting access to Altus Plateau. If for whatever reason you have not, you can also activate the festival by talking to Blythe about Radahn in the Sealfur River, or talking to Iji about Jaren. Both require you to progress the Rodney questline. Talking to Jaren starts a cutscene, after which the Radahn boss fight becomes available. Radahn immediately starts shooting you once you enter the boss arena, so stay on your toes. Once you defeat Radahn and Mohg, you're all set. So here's some of my final considerations. If you didn't get a lantern, get a lantern. The game's been out for 2 years, and the lantern is still my most favorite item by a mile. Not wasting a weapon or spell slot on being able to see is just tremendously useful. I'm going to be streaming the Shadow of the Erdtree while under the Tantra Stone, so if that sounds like a fun time, check it out. That's all, folks.